In 2026, housing costs in parts of Ohio have jumped so fast that some families are spending over 50% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. That is not just expensive, it is unsustainable. And here is the scary part. This is not random. It feels like a quiet shift happening behind the scenes, where homes are becoming harder to find, rents keep rising, and options are slowly disappearing. What if this is not just a market cycle, but a hidden system reshaping who gets to live where? Imagine waking up to a rent increase you cannot afford, with nowhere cheaper to go. Why are homes sitting empty while prices climb? Who benefits when supply shrinks and demand explodes? These are questions most people are not asking, but they should be. In this video, you will uncover 10 powerful reasons driving this collapse, backed by real data and real trends. More importantly, you will learn exact steps to protect yourself before it hits your doorstep. Because once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. Number 10. Corporate landlord expansion. Behind the scenes, a silent takeover of housing is already in motion. Large investment firms are buying thousands of single-family homes across Ohio not to live in them, but to turn them into long-term rental machines. These companies have deep pockets. They can outbid regular families within minutes. This creates a power imbalance where everyday buyers cannot compete. As more homes move into corporate hands, fewer are left for ownership. And when ownership drops, renting becomes the only option for many people. Here is where it gets more intense. These corporations do not think like small landlords. They use data, algorithms, and market trends to set rents at the highest level people can still tolerate. That means prices are not just rising, they are being strategically optimized for profit. Studies in housing economics show that when institutional ownership rises in a region, rent increases become faster and more consistent. This is not about one landlord raising rent. This is about a system designed to push prices upward across entire neighborhoods. So what can you actually do? First, look for properties owned by local landlords, not large firms. These are often more flexible and less aggressive with rent hikes. Second, ask directly, who owns this property, before signing anything. Third, explore co-living or community housing options, where costs are shared and less controlled by big investors. The key is simple but powerful. Avoid becoming trapped inside a system designed to extract maximum profit from you. Number 9. Rising property taxes. There is a quiet force pushing rents higher that most people never see: property taxes. Across many parts of Ohio in 2026, home values have been reassessed at higher levels. That means local governments are collecting more tax from each property. On paper, this sounds normal, but in reality, it creates a chain reaction that lands directly on renters. Landlords are not absorbing these costs. They are passing them forward, turning tax increases into rent hikes almost overnight. Here is the hidden mechanism. When property taxes rise faster than incomes, landlords adjust pricing to protect their margins. Even small increases per property can turn into hundreds of extra dollars per year, and when spread across multiple units, the impact grows fast. Research in housing economics shows that a significant portion of tax increases gets shifted to tenants, especially in tight markets where demand is already high. This means renters are not just paying for housing. They are indirectly funding rising government revenue through higher rent. So, how do you stay ahead of this? Start by checking county tax records before choosing a location. Look for areas where taxes have stayed stable over the past few years. Next, ask landlords if there were recent reassessments, because that often signals future rent increases. Finally, plan with a buffer. Do not rent at your financial limit. Leave room for sudden increases, because in this system, they are not rare, they are expected. The key insight is simple. When taxes rise quietly, rent rises loudly, and you need to be ready before it happens. If this made you pause and think, tell me this. What would you do if your housing options suddenly disappeared tomorrow? Drop your thoughts below, because your perspective might open someone else's eyes. Before you go, watch our previous video to uncover even deeper insights that most people are still missing right now. We put hours of deep research and effort into every video to bring you truth that matters. So please support us and subscribe. It is just one click. Number 8. Construction slowdown. There is a supply problem growing in silence, and most people only notice it when it is too late. New homes are not being built fast enough across Ohio in 2026. On the surface, it looks like normal delays. But underneath, there is a stack of pressures slowing everything down at once. Material costs remain high, skilled labor is limited, and builders are becoming more cautious. When construction slows, the number of available homes shrinks. And when supply shrinks while demand keeps rising, prices have only one direction to go: up. Here is the deeper system at work. Developers do not just build based on need. They build based on profit certainty. When interest rates stay high and costs remain unpredictable, many projects get delayed or canceled. This creates what experts call a shadow shortage, a gap between the homes people need and the homes actually being built. Studies in housing markets show that even a small drop in new construction can lead to sharp rent increases within a short time. This is not because homes disappear, but because new options stop entering the system, tightening pressure on everything that already exists. So how do you stay ahead of this hidden squeeze? First, track areas where new developments are being approved or recently completed, because these places often offer better pricing before demand floods in. Second, act early. Waiting for prices to drop in a low-supply environment rarely works. The longer you wait, the fewer choices you will have. Third, stay flexible with location. Sometimes moving slightly outside high-demand zones can give you access to newer, more affordable housing. The key takeaway is clear. When construction slows down, competition speeds up, and only the prepared stay ahead. Number 7. Zoning restrictions. There is a rule book controlling how cities grow, and most people never read it. These are zoning laws, and in many parts of Ohio, they quietly limit what kind of housing can be built. Large areas are locked into single-family homes only. That means no apartments, no duplexes, and no shared housing options. On the surface, this protects neighborhoods. But underneath, it creates a bottleneck that blocks new supply from entering the market. When land cannot be used efficiently, fewer homes get built, and prices begin to climb without resistance. Here is the hidden system few talk about. Even when there is demand for affordable housing, developers are often legally restricted from building it. Studies in urban planning show that strict zoning reduces housing density and pushes prices higher across entire regions. It is not just about one street or one project. It is a ripple effect. When affordable multifamily units are blocked, more people compete for limited single-family homes. This creates artificial scarcity, where the shortage is not natural. It is created by policy. And once this scarcity sets in, rent and home prices rise faster than incomes can keep up. So what can you do in this environment? First, research cities that are starting to relax zoning rules or allow mixed housing types, because these areas often see more stable pricing. Second, pay attention to local news about housing policy changes, as they signal where future opportunities may open. Third, stay adaptable. Consider areas just outside strict zones where development is expanding. The key insight is powerful. When rules limit supply, the market tightens, and those who understand the rules gain the advantage. Number 6. Migration pressure. A quiet wave of people is moving into Ohio, and it is changing the housing market faster than most realize. Families and workers are leaving expensive states, searching for lower costs and better living conditions. On the surface, this looks like a positive shift. More people, more growth. But underneath, it creates a sudden surge in demand that the current housing supply cannot absorb. When too many people chase too few homes, the pressure builds quickly, and prices begin to rise without warning. Here is the deeper mechanism driving this shift. Migration is not random. It follows patterns linked to job markets, remote work, and cost of living gaps. Studies show that when people move from high-cost areas into lower-cost regions, they often bring higher purchasing power. This allows them to outbid local buyers and accept higher rents without hesitation. As a result, the entire pricing structure begins to shift upward. What was once affordable becomes redefined at a new, higher level, and long-time residents feel the squeeze. This is how a local housing market gets reshaped by external demand, often within just a few years. So, how do you protect yourself in this situation? First, act early. If you're planning to move or renew a lease, do not wait for peak demand periods, because competition will be stronger. Second, watch migration trends. Areas receiving heavy inflows will likely see faster price increases. Third, lock in stability where possible. Long-term leases or fixed housing costs can shield you from sudden spikes. The key truth is simple but powerful. When new demand enters fast, the market does not adjust slowly. It shifts all at once. Number 5. Interest rate lock-in effect. There is a hidden freeze happening inside the housing market, and most people cannot see it. Homeowners across Ohio are holding onto their properties longer than expected. Why? Because many locked in very low mortgage rates years ago. Now in 2026, new rates are much higher. If they sell, they lose that advantage. So they stay. This creates a lock-in effect, where fewer homes are listed for sale. And when listings drop, buyers and renters are forced to compete for a shrinking pool of options. Here is how the system quietly tightens. Normally, people move for jobs, family, or lifestyle changes. That movement keeps housing flowing. But when rates rise sharply, mobility slows down. Studies show that higher interest rates can reduce housing turnover significantly, leading to supply stagnation. This does not mean homes disappear. It means they stop circulating through the market. As a result, new buyers struggle to find homes, and many shift into renting instead. This pushes rental demand higher, which then drives rent prices up across the board. It is a chain reaction that starts with rates but ends with affordability pressure. So how do you stay ahead of this frozen system? First, explore options like assumable mortgages, where you may take over an existing lower rate. Second, expand your search to include homes that have been listed longer, as these may offer negotiation space. Third, prepare financially for higher borrowing costs and avoid waiting for rates to drop quickly, because that may not happen soon. The key insight is clear. When homeowners stop moving, the entire market slows down, and the pressure builds on everyone else. Number 4. Aging housing stock. There is a silent decay happening inside the housing supply, and it is reducing real affordability faster than people expect. Many homes across Ohio are decades old. On paper, they still count as available housing. But in reality, a large portion of these homes need major repairs: roofs, plumbing, wiring, and structural fixes. This creates a hidden gap between listed homes and livable homes. When fewer homes are truly move-in ready, the usable supply shrinks and competition rises for the limited safe options. Here is where the system becomes more intense. Repair costs have increased sharply due to labor shortages and material prices. That means even if a home is cheaper up front, the total cost to make it livable can be much higher than expected. Studies in housing markets show that aging properties often lead to deferred maintenance cycles, where issues pile up until they become expensive emergencies. Landlords facing these costs often pass them on through higher rent, while buyers either overpay for renovated homes or take on heavy financial risk. This creates a market where true affordability becomes harder to find, even when prices seem lower at first glance. So, how do you protect yourself in this situation? First, always check the true condition of a property, not just the price. Ask for recent repair records and inspection reports. Second, prioritize homes that have been recently updated or properly maintained, even if they cost slightly more upfront. Third, set aside a repair buffer in your budget, because unexpected costs are not rare. They are almost guaranteed in older housing. The key takeaway is powerful. When homes age without upkeep, affordability becomes an illusion, and only informed decisions protect you. Number 3. Short-term rental conversion. There is a quiet shift happening inside neighborhoods, and it is removing homes from the long-term market without most people noticing. More property owners are turning regular homes into short-term rentals through platforms like vacation stays. On the surface, it looks like a smart way to earn extra income. But underneath, it creates a direct loss of housing for local residents. Every home converted into short-term use is one less home available for families who need stable long-term living. And as this trend spreads, the supply of traditional rentals begins to shrink rapidly. Here is the hidden mechanism driving this change. Short-term rentals often generate higher income than long-term leases, especially in areas with growing travel or business activity. This pushes landlords to prioritize profit over stability, converting units even in residential zones. Studies in urban housing show that when short-term rentals increase in a city, long-term rental prices rise alongside them. This is because the remaining supply becomes more limited, and demand concentrates on fewer available units. It creates a system where housing is no longer treated as shelter first, but as a high-yield investment asset, and that shift changes everything. So, how do you stay protected in this environment? First, research whether your target area has strict regulations on short-term rentals, because regulated zones tend to preserve more long-term housing. Second, observe the neighborhood. If you notice frequent guest turnover, it may signal rising conversion trends. Third, act early when you find a stable rental, because availability can disappear quickly in high-conversion areas. The key insight is clear. When homes turn into temporary stays, permanent residents lose their place, and the market becomes tighter for everyone else. Number 2. Wage versus rent imbalance. There is a growing gap that is quietly breaking affordability, and most people feel it every month. Wages are rising, but not fast enough. At the same time, rents are climbing at a much higher speed. This creates a dangerous imbalance where income stays limited, but housing costs keep expanding. On paper, small increases in rent may not seem alarming, but over time, they stack up, and suddenly a large part of your paycheck is gone before anything else is paid. This is how financial pressure builds slowly, then all at once. Here is the deeper system behind this imbalance. Rent prices are driven by market demand, investor behavior, and supply shortages. Wages, on the other hand, adjust slowly and depend on broader economic conditions. Studies show that in tight housing markets, rent growth can outpace wage growth for extended periods, creating long-term affordability stress. This forces many people to either spend beyond safe limits or downgrade their living conditions. Over time, this gap reduces savings, increases debt risk, and limits financial mobility. It is not just about paying more, it is about losing the ability to get ahead. So, how do you protect yourself in this situation? First, follow a strict rule. Do not let rent exceed 30% of your income, even if options feel limited. Second, actively look for ways to increase income alongside managing costs, because relying on one side alone is risky. Third, build a financial buffer, even if small, because unexpected rent increases can happen quickly in this system. The key truth is simple but powerful. When rent rises faster than income, the system becomes unsustainable, and only disciplined decisions keep you stable. Number 1. Policy gaps and delayed housing reforms. There is a critical delay at the highest level, and it is shaping the housing crisis more than people realize. Policies meant to support affordable housing are moving too slowly compared to how fast the market is changing in 2026. Governments often take years to plan, approve, and implement housing reforms, but prices can rise in months. This creates a dangerous timing gap where the system reacts too late. By the time new policies arrive, the damage is already done, and millions are left dealing with higher costs and fewer options. Here is the hidden structure behind this delay. Housing policy involves multiple layers: local councils, state rules, funding approvals, and legal processes. Each step takes time and often faces resistance. Studies in urban policy show that delayed intervention allows market forces to accelerate unchecked, especially when demand is high and supply is restricted. This means investors and large players move faster than regulation, gaining advantage, while everyday people struggle to keep up. The result is a system where solutions exist on paper, but not in real life when they are needed most. So how do you stay ahead when the system moves slowly? First, stay informed about local housing policies and upcoming changes. Because early awareness gives you a timing advantage. Second, act before reforms take effect, not after, because markets often adjust in anticipation of new rules. Third, build flexibility into your plans, whether through savings, relocation options, or lease strategies. The key insight is clear. When policy lags behind reality, the burden shifts to individuals, and those who act early stay protected. What you have just seen is not a random housing problem. It is a system-wide shift that directly impacts your freedom, your money, and your future choices. When housing becomes harder to access, it limits where you can live, where you can work, and how you build your life. This is not just about rent going up. It is about control slowly moving away from individuals and into larger systems that decide prices, availability, and access. And when that happens, your ability to make independent decisions begins to shrink. Financially, the impact is even more intense. When more of your income goes into housing, less is left for savings, investments, or even basic comfort. Over time, this creates a cycle where you are working harder, but moving forward less. Studies show that high housing costs are one of the biggest barriers to building long-term wealth. This means the gap between those who secure stable housing early and those who do not will continue to grow. It is not just a housing issue. It becomes a status divide that shapes opportunities for years to come. But here is the most important truth. This system does not collapse overnight, and it does not affect everyone equally at the same time. It moves in waves. That means there is still a window to act. The people who stay aware, plan ahead, and make smart moves early are the ones who protect their stability, while others struggle to adjust. The key takeaway is simple but powerful. The housing system is changing, and those who understand it early gain the advantage. If this made you pause and think, tell me this: what would you do if your housing options suddenly disappeared tomorrow? Drop your thoughts below, because your perspective might open someone else's eyes. Before you go, watch our previous video to uncover even deeper insights that most people are still missing right now. We put hours of deep research and effort into every video to bring you truth that matters. So please support us and subscribe. It is just one click.